Through to this media briefing on the President's Public Engagement Program. On the 5th of May, President Ramaphosa will deliver a keynote address at the second Presidential Health Summit at the Birchwood Hotel in Boksburg. The summit, which starts on the 4th of May, brings together key stakeholders from various constituencies within the health sector to review the implementation of interventions agreed to during the first summit held in 2018. The summit also aims to assess the health system against the Presidential Health Compact that was signed by the President and all social partners in 2019, committing social partners to a 5-year program to improve healthcare services in the country. On the same day, President Ramaphosa will travel to Bujumbura, Burundi, to participate in the 11th high-level segment of the Regional Oversight Mechanism of the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework for the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Great Lakes region. The PSC framework's key mandate is to end the recurring cycles of devastating conflict in the Eastern DRC, which impact on stability and development in the Great Lakes region. The framework also aims at addressing the root causes of the conflict in the region. The summit will take place against the backdrop of the worsening political and security situation in the Eastern DRC caused by the resurgence of the M23 rebel movement. The summit will also deliberate on the deployment of East African Community troops and their role in dealing with negative forces in the Eastern DRC, especially the M23. On the 8th of May, President Ramaphosa will attend the Extraordinary Organ Troika Summit Plus and Force Intervention Brigade troop contributing countries in Windhoek, Namibia. The Extraordinary Organ Troika Summit Plus will receive a report from the SADC Field Assessment Mission in the Eastern DRC, consider the regional response to the worsening security and humanitarian situation, and establish a SADC common position on coordination of interventions and multiple deployments in the Eastern DRC. Then on the 11th of May, the President will reply to questions in the National Assembly as part of his ongoing commitment to openness, transparency, and accountability. On the 12th of May, President Ramaphosa will host the President of Bulgaria, Mr. Rumen Radev, for a working visit which will focus on the building of political and trade ties as well as cultural exchanges between South Africa and Bulgaria. Lastly, President Ramaphosa will receive the Prime Minister of the Republic of Singapore, Mr. Lee Hsien Loong, on the 16th of May here in Cape Town for an official working visit. South Africa values its bilateral relationship with the Republic of Singapore, and President Ramaphosa is looking forward to working closely with the Prime Minister in further strengthening the existing relationship between the two countries. I'll end there for now in the President's program. All other engagements that may not be included in this program will send them through our usual advisors. So I'll open the floor to questions.
SABC, my questions are not about what you have just about his programs, but about his duties as well. The President, the JSC has recommended to the President that he must suspend Judge Maumela and Judge Ngabisa Tusi. What is he waiting for? Is he consulting? What's happening there? Secondly, on the ICC matter, the International Criminal Court, is South Africa in or out? Can you just clarify for the last time, because it's not clear. And lastly, the Commission for the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers has recommended a 3.8% hike. And COSATU President, when she was addressing the Workers' Day on the 1st of May, raised issues of how some workers, the plight of workers, where some are not even receiving their salaries, especially in municipalities, considering now this 3.8% hike that is supposed to be approved, the proposal is supposed to be approved by the President. Is he not concerned about the public office bearers receiving their monies that is due to them, while ordinary workers, the poorest of the poor, sometimes struggle to get their salaries? Thank you.
Thank you, Lama. Let's just take those questions and then we'll come back for another round here. On the JSC recommendation, the JSC announced its recommendation before the recommendation reached the desk of the President. As soon as that recommendation does reach the desk of the President will act on it immediately. So there's no delay there. On the ICC, the statement that we issued last week, Thursday, clarified the issue well enough to say South Africa remains party to, or is a state party to the Rome Statute. So there's no confusion there. We did clarify the error that the President made, and so there shouldn't be any confusion in that matter. With respect to the recommendation made for salary increases for public office bearers, those recommendations have been presented to the President. The President has not made a decision yet as to whether he will accept them as they are. He will be consulting with National Treasury, and he will be looking at other factors that need to be evaluated before signing off on any recommendation or any increase in that regard. Jason, or Mr. Jason.
Yes, thank you, Vincent. Just two questions from my side. The Minister of Electricity, there's been much talk around that, and there's been much problems with specifically the Minister's powers that he has and his mandate, and the powers that Minister Gwede Mantashe, the Minister of Mineral Resources, hold. The Minister of Electricity also doesn't have a budget. Has the President given consideration to these factors, to these issues? Has there been a final mandate for the Minister of Electricity? And then just on the BRICS Summit, I know there's one in June now as well with the foreign ministers, and then there's one in August, the big one with the heads of state. President Ramaphosa has appointed the Deputy President to look at the options and the legal opinions and whatever else the government can possibly do. What has been so far considered in this regard? And has there been any indication from any BRICS member states as to which sitting head of state will be in South Africa in August? Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. With respect to the powers and functions of the Minister of Electricity, the Minister has been hard at work getting to grips with the problem, its magnitude, and various solutions that are currently underway through NICOM and alternatives that can be explored. The Minister has led very important conversations and debates on what we need to consider as a country as we tackle our energy crisis. He has also engaged a number of stakeholders soliciting inputs, as well as cooperation with the understanding that government alone cannot solve this crisis. In the President's view, the Minister has added a lot of impetus in the work of NICOM and will continue to do so. The President is satisfied with the work the Minister has managed to do thus far. There is a sense of speed and urgency across the board in the implementation of the Energy Action Plan that the President announced last year. The issue of powers and functions will be resolved very soon, and the President is attending to it. There are engagements taking place between the President and the Minister, as well as other ministers that have a role in the energy crisis. But it's not a matter that has disabled the Minister from doing what he has been able to do thus far. So it is an issue that will be resolved. With regards to the BRICS Summit, Jason, if you may indulge me a little bit, I'm going to give you a slightly long-winded response in this regard, just to highlight the importance of the summit, because we've run into a danger of equating the summit to one country that's facing particular challenges with respect to the International Criminal Court. The President is very determined to host a very successful BRICS summit. South Africa's participation in BRICS is determined or premised on its national interest in line with the National Development Plan and the medium-term strategic framework of 2019 to 2024, Priority 7. The main objectives of South Africa's engagement in BRICS are therefore to enhance future growth and development of South Africa and to strengthen intra-BRICS relations and mutually beneficial cooperation. South Africa emphasizes concrete cooperation that contributes both directly and indirectly to the priorities of a better South Africa, a better Africa, and a better world through its partnership with key players of the Global South on issues related to global governance and its reform and development. The theme for this year's summit is BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development, and Inclusive Multilateralism. Therefore, for President Ramaphosa, Jason, this is an Africa BRICS summit. The President wants the entire continent to participate and to benefit from the engagements during the summit. There is nothing in the President's view that will overshadow the summit and its significance, and the President will not allow anything to undermine the intended objectives of the summit. All other issues that you've alluded to that may seem to threaten this summit will be addressed and resolved prior to the summit in order for South Africa to host a successful and a memorable BRICS summit. With respect to the details around the work of the Deputy President, I won't go into those details at this stage because once all of these issues have been finalized, an appropriate announcement will be made. So far, all heads of state have indicated their intention and desire to attend the summit. We do have a slight challenge with respect to Russia, which we are hoping to have resolved by the time the date of the summit comes, and those issues the President is fairly comfortable that will be resolved prior to the summit so that we can focus on the summit and less so on issues impacting one country. I think I've covered you, Jason. Mercedes?
Thank you. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Let me first start with a follow-up on Lula's question about the ICC. Was it not an embarrassment for the President? I think that was an embarrassment, saying something today and something else, and you say there was no confusion, it has been clarified. Was he embarrassed? Direct question. And then the first question, which I think is a very important question for me, is it's appreciated that you have these media briefings and everything. I've seen many of them, giving us an update of where the President will be, where he's going and so on and what he will be doing. It's good. But I haven't heard anyone, not even Salif, not even any of media colleagues asking, when is the President going to have a media briefing with us? Or when are you going to bring him? Is he so busy he cannot do that? Because I've just heard you saying he's coming to Parliament, which is good. You say it's because it's openness, transparency, and accountability. So in that transparency also with the public and through the media, are you going to organize a meeting, an engagement with the President? Whether it's here in Parliament or at the union buildings, that's another question. And then the expropriation bill, how far is it? Has it been signed? If I missed it, I know it's on his desk, the expropriation bill. Has it been signed? I don't think it has been said. I just remember the last time the Freedom Front Plus was asking, will he take it first to the Constitutional Court to check it first, the constitutionality before signing it. And that was when he appeared here in Parliament. So I don't know if he has signed it yet, but I'm sure I would have known. So that will be it. And then the ICC, and then that's it, expropriation, ICC, that one. And then the last one here is that the SABC board issue. Okay, on the ICC, what does he say about Ellen Wynne, who says he will arrest Putin? Okay, I would like to know what he says or what he thinks. And then the SABC board, although you have appointed the SABC board, we know there is still litigation, there's still this court matter. Is it, has he withdrawn? And because the act is actually silent on some of the things that he did question about the legal clarity. But don't you think that legal clarity should be given once and for all through the Constitutional Court with the fact that it is already in the Constitutional Court? Even if the board has been appointed, where is the process? What does he intend to do? Thank you. That will be all.
Thank you, Mr. Edison. Let me just start with the expropriation bill and promise to come back to you on that one. So I don't have the facts immediately offhand. With respect to the ICC, the President owned up to the error. I think we should appreciate that. He made an error which was made without any malicious intent or any other intention. He owned up to that error. We released the statement to clarify the issue on the very same day the error was made. And I think we should accept the President's word in that regard, that it was an error and an unfortunate one, as we indicated in our statement. It remains the President's desire and our desire in his office to have him available for more media engagements. So I can't give a timeline, except to say that remains a commitment on his part and on our part to have that kind of interaction. With respect to the SABC board litigation, you do correctly allude to the fact that some of the recommendations or what was submitted to the President was problematic in the sense that it had no expression in the Act. And unfortunately, there was a delay in the back and forth that followed in trying to solicit that clarification. Now that matter has been resolved, the board is in place. It is really entirely up to the litigants in this particular case to decide whether they want to continue with the court action that they've launched or to withdraw. On the side of the President, he will cooperate with the process. And as you say, we can't preempt the outcome, but the court may very well provide clarity on those issues, or it may not, we don't know. But if the President needs to cooperate with that process, he will do so. As we said, that delay was quite unfortunate, and it was not on the side of the President, or the intention on the side of the President, to have a delay for that long, except to say there were those issues that needed to be clarified, and unfortunately, that process did not run as smoothly as expected.
I've got one question. Ellen Windy.
Oh. Last I remember, Mercedes, the Western Cape was part of the Republic of South Africa. So I'm not quite sure what informs Mr. Windy's utterances and where will he derive the authority from to effect such an arrest, except to say he is putting the cart before the horse at the moment because, as I mentioned earlier on, there are engagements at various levels to find a resolution of this matter, which, as you'll appreciate, is quite complex for us as a country. And so let's rather focus on that process than, PR soundbites in this regard. Lula.
It's a follow-up on your answer about the SABC board's appointment not running smooth. The President raising some reservations on that, delaying and appointing the board, and he ultimately appoints the board. Would you say that he was perhaps satisfied now? What happened with the reservations that he raised? Did he ended up being satisfied with the process now that he ended up appointing the board, or was it because of the legal opinion that was scathing on him? Secondly, what's the latest on Section 189? The President took the matter to the Concord, it was dismissed. So what's the latest on that? What is he going to do? Thanks.
Section 89 panel report, sorry, not 189. 89.
I picked up what you were referring to. No. The issue of that legal opinion, in fact, let me put it this way. The president has a different view to that legal opinion. I think that's the most important thing. The second thing is what was finally submitted to the president that he signed on to was what he expected in terms of the act. So the confusion that was created by what was submitted to the president had now been eliminated. So it really had nothing to do with the court action. So notwithstanding that legal opinion, there was a process to rectify what had been submitted to the president. So he could comfortably then sign on to or sign off the appointment of the board. The Section 89 report challenge, we'll have to come back to you on that one, Lulama. The decision has not been made as to what is the president's next steps. Andy?
No, covered.
You sure? Lindsay?
Vincent, thank you. Just on the G7 summit, first time the president is not invited since his presidency, and I know there have been some explanations that the summit wants to see things maybe from an Africa perspective rather than just from the South African president. How does the president view not being invited? Does he see it as a snub?
No, it does not. It does not see it as a snub. The communication from the host government, which in this case is the Japanese government, was quite clear that they would prefer for the G7 outreach program to be rather conducted through regional bodies, such as the AU, for example, in our case, instead of inviting individual countries to be part of that program. It is always left to the host of the G7 to decide the format and shape of the summit. And so in that regard, the president accepted that view and did not see it as a snub. And remember, we have bilateral relations with each of the G7 members, which are quite strong, both in terms of trade as well as diplomatic and political ties. And so he won't see it as a snub because those are ongoing relationships, and we will have a relationship with Japan. And so it's not a major concern to the president. I guess there's always a first time for everything. The Japanese government decided as a host that they will host the summit in a different way. If you look at the manner in which we're going to host the BRICS summit, it's going to be quite different from how it was hosted in the past by South Africa itself, as well as other members of BRICS. And I'm hoping that at some point my colleagues at DIRCO will announce the program, or we will be able to announce the program. But when the program does get announced, you will see that the format will be very, very different compared to previous BRICS summits. So as these multilateral institutions evolve, we expect that the manner in which they seek to engage and they engage with various parties will change alongside with the evolution and the way that they view the world, if you like.
Okay, one last question.
Yes, Mr.
The grey listing. When he appeared recently, he gave an undertaking to say that Treasury is working very hard to get South Africa off the grey list. So I want to know, what progress? I know it's Treasury that may have to answer, but I'm sure he can also answer. What progress has been made? Has he received any progress reports from Treasury and so on to be able to tell us how are they progressing? Where is it now?
I said, if you forgive me for not giving you details, all I can tell you is, yes, the president has been briefed, and two, there is a sense of progress with respect to zeroing in on some of these illicit financial flows that have gotten us to this point. And that's an effort that involves multiple agencies that are tasked with looking at these issues. There is a sense of urgency. We have, I think, about 12 months to institute corrective measures in this regard. And the President is confident that when FATF reevaluates South Africa's standing, he will find that we have managed to improve our monitoring, but more importantly, we've improved law enforcement agency involvement in curbing some of these activities. So there is a sense of progress. I just can't give you the details as yet, but the President has been kept well informed by the Minister of Finance on this matter. Are we done? Is it lunchtime? Lindsay, you happy? Jason, you happy?
Happy, thank you.
Okay.
I think next time we'll ask the President when you bring it there directly.
Thank you, Mercedes. Thanks, guys.
Don't be like that, he won't come back.
You took our lunchtime. You took the lunchtime. You took our lunchtime, so I offered us